Welcome to Algorithmic Arguments. I'm your host, the Orchestrator. Tonight, we're tackling a question that's sure to ignite passionate debates among literature lovers and pop culture enthusiasts. Will the new Sherlock Holmes adaptation stay true to the original stories or modernize them too much? Joining me are four experts with unique perspectives on this topic. We have Dr. Elena Vasquez, whose work in cultural anthropology gives her insight into how adaptations can both honor and misrepresent their sources. Marisol, the shark, Vega brings her courtroom expertise, knowing a thing or two about the delicate balance between tradition and innovation. Reggie Fontaine is here to share his knowledge of 90s television, where Sherlock Holmes adaptations have been reimagined before. And Abuela Solis will offer wisdom on community building through storytelling, which might just be at the heart of this debate. Over the next hour, we'll dissect what it means to adapt a classic and whether there's a line between staying faithful and taking creative liberties. Let's dive in.
I've seen numerous adaptations of Sherlock Holmes over the years, and it's clear that creators struggle to balance fidelity to the source material with the need to refresh the narrative for contemporary audiences. The original stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle are products of their time, reflecting Victorian values and social norms. A modern adaptation that ignores these contextual factors would be misguided, but one that sanitizes or updates the characters without thoughtful consideration of their historical context risks losing the essence of Holmes's character. What will likely happen is a bit of both, some creative liberties taken to appeal to today's viewers, while still maintaining core elements that fans expect. The question is, will these changes enhance or dilute the original story? Only time and a critical analysis of the adaptation will tell.
Let me be very clear, when it comes to adaptations of classic works like Sherlock Holmes, there's a delicate balance between staying true to the source material and making it relevant for modern audiences. I've seen many producers try to update iconic characters in ways that ultimately dilute their essence. But with Sherlock Holmes, I think it's essential to preserve the core elements that make him so compelling: his extraordinary abilities of observation, his analytical mind, and his somewhat eccentric personality. The original stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle are a product of their time, and some aspects may not resonate with contemporary viewers. However, modernizing them too much risks losing the spirit of the character. I'd argue that a successful adaptation will find ways to refresh the narrative while remaining faithful to Holmes's fundamental nature. The record will reflect that Sherlock Holmes is an iconic figure. Let's see if this new adaptation does him justice.
Listen, baby, I've seen my fair share of reboots and remakes in this industry. Back when the Fontaine family was on, we didn't have all these reboots and revivals going on. Now, it's like they're trying to milk every franchise for all it's worth. As for Sherlock Holmes, I think they'll find a balance. They'll keep the essence of the character, his wit, intelligence, and eccentricity, but update it for modern audiences. After all, Fontaine don't play that. You can't just regurgitate old stories, you need some fresh twists to compete in today's TV landscape. I've got friends who work in production, and they tell me it's tough to recreate magic without taking risks. The originals were groundbreaking in their time, now it's about reimagining them while respecting the core. I kid, but if anyone can make it happen, it's a team with some vision and talent behind it.
Reggie Fontaine's comment about the Fontaine family seemed unrelated to the discussion on Sherlock Holmes adaptations. Let's keep the focus on the topic.
Mijo, listen to your abuela. A good story needs a little bit of tradition and a little bit of spice, ¿entiendes? In my country, we say that if you change too much, it's like adding too much water to the mole, it loses its soul. But if you don't update it all, it's like serving tamales with yesterday's masa, nobody wants it. The original Sherlock Holmes stories are classics, but times have changed. I think a good adaptation will find that balance, Like my famous Child's Elena's recipe, just enough change to make it fresh, but still keep the heart of the story intact. My grandkids love watching those old movies, and they say the new adaptations need to respect the characters or they'll lose their magic. Dios mío, I agree with them.
As we navigate the intersection of tradition and innovation in the new Sherlock Holmes adaptation, I find myself drawn to the tension between fidelity to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's works and the demands of contemporary storytelling. Dr. Vasquez astutely pointed out that modernizing classic characters can breathe fresh life into timeless tales. But where does this line of creative liberty blur into disrespect for the original narrative? The shark's counterpoint about audience expectations in today's television landscape raises a crucial question. Can an adaptation balance nostalgic value with the need to evolve and engage new viewers? As we dive into our next round, I'm eager to explore how these competing forces might shape this reimagining of Sherlock Holmes. If you're enjoying the dissection of this iconic character's revival, subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. We're just getting under the skin of this intriguing debate.
Back when my show was on, we used to tackle tough topics like this all the time, and I gotta say, it's a delicate dance, updating Sherlock Holmes for today's audience without losing that iconic spark. Now, I'm not saying I've got a crystal ball, but from what I've seen in the industry, successful adaptations find a way to marry the old with the new. Take my show, The Fontaine Family. We were a staple of 90s TV, and if we'd stuck too close to traditional sitcom formulas, we wouldn't have lasted 4 seasons. The key is respecting the essence, Holmes's intellect, his quirks, while making it relatable to viewers who've grown up on today's television. I think they'll get it right. After all, as I used to say on my show, Fontaine don't play that, when it comes to messing with a classic.
As an academic who's spent years uncovering the layers of history, I believe adaptations must balance fidelity and innovation. The original Sherlock Holmes stories are products of their time, reflecting Victorian society's biases and limitations. A modern adaptation that ignores these contexts would be just as problematic as one that sanitizes them. I've seen how reimagining ancient sites can either breathe new life into the past or distort its essence. It's a delicate balance. I think a successful adaptation will judiciously update elements to resonate with contemporary audiences while staying true to the spirit of Conan Doyle's work. It's not about clinging to the original, but about understanding its core and reinterpreting it for today's world. The challenge lies in being thoughtful and considerate, much like careful excavation, to ensure that changes enhance rather than erase the essence of Sherlock Holmes.
Let me be very clear. When it comes to adapting classic works like Sherlock Holmes, there's a delicate balance between staying true to the source material and making it relevant for modern audiences. I've seen many adaptations falter because they either cling too tightly to the original or abandon its essence in pursuit of trendiness. With all due respect to purists, I believe some modernization is not only inevitable but necessary, otherwise, the story risks feeling like a relic. The record will reflect that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's stories have been adapted countless times. Each iteration reflects the concerns and sensibilities of its era. The question isn't whether the new adaptation will stray from the originals, but how thoughtfully it does so. If done well, modernizing Sherlock Holmes can breathe fresh life into these iconic characters while retaining their core, much like a skilled attorney presents new evidence to bolster an enduring argument.
Ah, baby, let me tell you, I've got a take on this. Back when my show was on, we used to tackle all sorts of topics, and I gotta say, I'm intrigued by this Sherlock Holmes adaptation conversation. Now, I'm not one for getting too caught up in literary purism, but I do think there's something to be said for respecting the source material. That being said, Fontaine don't play that. We're living in a different time now, and modernizing classic stories is just part of the game. I think what's key here is finding that balance between staying true to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's spirit and making it fresh for new audiences. I mean, remember when we brought hip-hop into mainstream TV with The Fontaine Family? We knew we had to evolve or die.
Mijo, I've been thinking about this a lot. In my country, we have a saying, tradición es cultura, pero la vida es cambio. Tradition is culture, but life is change. The Sherlock Holmes stories are classics, but they were written in another time. If the new adaptation wants to stay fresh and reach young people, it needs to evolve with the times. That doesn't mean throwing out the heart of who Sherlock is, his curiosity, his intelligence, but finding ways to make him relatable today. I've seen some adaptations that try too hard to modernize and lose the essence of the character. But if done right, like a good recipe that updates ingredients without changing the flavor, it can work beautifully. Dios mío, I trust the creators will find that balance.
As we wrap up this episode of Algorithmic Arguments, I'd like to reflect on the lively discussion we've had on the new Sherlock Holmes adaptation. Our panelists have presented compelling cases on both sides of the debate. Dr. Elena Vasquez made a strong argument that modernizing the stories would breathe new life into the classic characters, while Marisol the Shark, Vega, and Abuela Maria Solis raised valid concerns about staying true to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's original vision. Reggie Fontaine also brought up an interesting point about the importance of period authenticity. In the end, Dr. Elena Vasquez takes the top score with her nuanced approach to balancing tradition and innovation. Congratulations! I'd like to thank all our panelists for their thought-provoking insights. To our audience, we appreciate your engagement. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on future episodes. Until next time, keep the conversation going and join us for more algorithmic arguments.